If you keep working hard for me, I will get a raise. Myra said it with a smug little smile, leaning against my cubicle wall like she had built my career with her bare hands instead of borrowing it daily. I was sitting in medical document administration at Glasswell Health Partners, midway through sorting surgical release forms sometime in the early morning, when our supervisor praised her for a records recovery project I had completed. I had cleaned the backlog, rebuilt the tracking sheet, flagged missing authorizations, and fixed an archive mess that could have triggered compliance headaches. Myra had contributed a brisk walk, a clipboard, and a talent for appearing useful when someone important walked by. Len, our supervisor, had stood by her desk grinning as if she had personally saved the whole department. He congratulated her on the turnaround and thanked her for stepping up. I looked up so fast I nearly pulled a muscle. Then he walked off, and Myra drifted over to deliver her line like a queen tossing scraps from a balcony. I wanted to tell her exactly where she could file her opinion. Instead, I smiled once and turned back to my monitor. In medical administration, emotion is loud and documentation is final. Every task I completed carried a timestamp, a routed email, a version history, or a shared drive note with my initials. I had learned early that if work is not documented, it may as well have been performed by a ghost. So while Myra floated around in stolen praise, I began organizing proof. I saved project summaries, archived feedback emails, and built a private record of every backlog I had repaired, every process I had improved, and every audit issue I had prevented. Around lunch, I overheard two senior coordinators whispering by the copier. Our department manager had accepted another role. The manager position would be posted internally before the week ended. I stopped thinking about Myra almost instantly. That was the moment everything changed. Not because fairness had arrived, but because opportunity had. Too many people waste precious energy arguing with coworkers who are wrong. Wrong people love arguments. They get to perform innocence while you look emotional. I was not interested in giving Myra a stage. I was interested in giving myself a promotion. The internal posting appeared by the next morning. I read it with a notebook beside me. Oversight of document workflows, compliance support, staff guidance, process improvement, cross-clinic coordination. As I went line by line, a simple truth emerged. I was already doing much of the work. I just did not have the title, the authority, or the paycheck. The salary range nearly made me choke. The role paid about 2.5 times what I was earning. That kind of difference is not decorative. It is security. It is savings. And it is the ability to leave bad situations instead of negotiating with them from a place of fear. Women are often taught to treat money like a side topic, something impolite to prioritize. I have never found rent, legal fees, or retirement contributions to be especially polite. They demand attention whether your feelings are ready or not. So I updated my resume that same day. I did not exaggerate. I translated. When I stopped describing myself as helpful and started describing the real value of my work. Reduced backlog exposure, corrected record inconsistencies before compliance review, designed tracking tools that improve turnaround. The facts did not change. The framing did. At work, I stayed calm. Myra kept parading around the office, repeating pieces of my language in meetings as if she had invented process control. I did not challenge her in public. I asked careful questions instead. Which version of the routing log are we using for the discharge packets? Should the archive correction workflow remain in the shared folder where I placed it? Have the authorization exception notes been added to the tracker? Nothing dramatic, just precise enough to leave a visible trail back to me. I also met with human resources to ask about internal advancement. Not to complain, to understand. Complaints make you sound trapped. Questions make you sound strategic. Ian, the HR partner, told me to emphasize measurable impact, leadership without title, and system knowledge. In other words, my daily life. So I applied. When I clicked submit, I felt something cleaner than hope. I felt leverage. Later that afternoon, Myra breezed by my desk and asked if I could finish the monthly discrepancy report because she was swamped. I looked up and told her I had my own priorities. Her expression tightened for half a second. It was tiny. It was glorious. Yet a few mornings later, I got the interview invitation. The panel included the department director, an HR partner, and the operations lead. I prepared like my future bank account was watching. Most people think interviews are about proving they are good. Good is too vague. I focused on proving that I reduced risk, saved labor, and understood the systems that protected the company from expensive mistakes. I built a prep file with examples of problems and fixes. Missing signatures needed a standard escalation path. Duplicate indexing needed a checkpoint review before archive release. Backlog confusion needed visible ownership. Staff tension needed documented handoffs. I also listed ways I had already led without the title. Training new hires, catching release errors before records went out, creating templates that reduced rework across multiple clinics. The night before the interview, my mother called. When I told her what was happening, she laughed softly and said, "Let foolish people advertise your value if they insist. You do not need to wrestle for credit in the hallway. You need the chair that signs off on payroll." That woman could turn a sentence into a backbone. The morning of the interview, I wore a navy blouse and the expression of someone who knew exactly where every departmental weakness lived. The panel asked about compliance, process improvement, conflict, and managing former peers. I answered with specifics. I said I would rely on documented responsibilities, measurable expectations, and clear communication. In records work, ambiguity is expensive. The same is true of management. They asked how I handled difficult coworkers. I did not mention Myra. I said that when someone misrepresents work, public arguments usually make the problem worse. I prefer evidence, workflow clarity, and patterns that reveal themselves through documentation. That protects morale and the company at the same time. The operations lead smiled at that. Then they asked why I wanted the role now. I said because I understood the cost of weak process control, and because doing management-level work without management authority no longer helped the company or me. That answer landed in the room like a paperweight, heavy, useful, hard to ignore. When I returned to the department, Myra was standing near the printer talking loudly about leadership. She gave me a polished little smile and asked how my meeting had gone. I smiled back and said, "Productive. Nothing unsettles a manipulative person like calm. Chaos is their preferred language. Refusing to speak it makes them work much harder." The offer arrived early the next week. Department manager, clinical records operations. I read the email twice, then once more just to enjoy it properly. Human resources called to review the package, and the compensation was every bit as satisfying as I had imagined. Nearly 2.5 times my pay, plus stronger benefits and a performance bonus tier. I sat there in silence after the call, feeling that strange, deep relief people rarely discuss honestly. Ambition is often described as sparkle and triumph. Sometimes it is simply the chance to stop feeling financially cornered. The announcement went out later that day. The director praised my process improvements, operational leadership, and compliance awareness in front of the entire department, including Myra, especially Myra. Her face was a masterpiece of disbelief. After the meeting, coworkers came by to congratulate me. Some were warm, some were calculating. Offices are full of people who can smell a title change before the email is fully opened. I thanked them all and kept moving. Then Myra appeared in my new office doorway with a smile that looked painfully assembled. "Wow," she said. I had no idea you were even interested." I folded my hands and looked at her calmly. I am interested in opportunities that match the work being done, I said. Her mouth twitched. Then she laughed and said, "Well, I guess all that work paid off?" "Yes," I said. "Mine usually does. There are replies that shout, and there are replies that land like a neat stamp on an official denial. I recommend the second kind." I did not punish her. I did something much more effective. I managed correctly. I introduced documented ownership for projects, clearer workflow assignments, shared tracking logs, and training refreshers. If someone completed a project, their name stayed attached to it. If work was collaborative, contributions were visible. No more fog. No more easy theft. Structure protects decent people and irritates opportunists, like sunlight irritates vampires. Within a short stretch, backlogs improved, errors dropped, and the department got quieter. Funny how much drama disappears when truth gets a spreadsheet. Myra could no longer drift through the day on borrowed competence. She had to perform or become visible for what she was. For months, she had hoped to get a raise off my labor. Instead, she got regular supervision and clear metrics. The real lesson settled in after I moved into the role. Better pay was not just about comfort, it was armor. It meant savings, retirement contributions, and breathing room. It meant options. In work, property, contracts, caregiving, or family money, the pattern is the same. The person with options is harder to trap. The person who pays attention to terms, records, and openings is harder to exploit. Not long after, a younger coordinator came to me upset because another coworker was taking credit for her ideas. I listened and asked one question: "What have you documented?" By the end of the week, she had a clean file of emails, drafts, and change histories. A little later, she applied for a better role in another unit and got it. That was when I knew this had never really been about Myra. It was about refusing to waste yourself arguing with people who benefit from keeping you stuck. Some wrongs do not deserve your outrage. They deserve your strategy. Myra eventually transferred out, looking less pleased with life in a department where every result had an owner and every project left a trail. I wished her well with exactly the amount of sincerity office culture requires. Sometimes, in the quiet part of the morning before the inbox turns feral, I remember her leaning over my cubicle with that smug smile. "If you keep working hard for me, I will get a raise." She was right about one thing. Hard work can absolutely lead to a raise. She was just very confused about whose raise it was going to be. I was quietly keeping projects moving while my coworker took public credit for the results. Instead of arguing with her when she bragged in my face, I paid attention to something more important: the bigger opportunity inside the same company. I recognized that fighting for validation from the wrong person would only waste my energy and make me look reactive. What helped me most was staying calm, documenting my work, and understanding that proof matters more than emotion in a workplace. That choice gave me leverage, protected my reputation, and kept me focused on long-term career growth. What I did right was refusing to get dragged into office drama. I did not confront her in a way that could be used against me, and I did not let my frustration push me into a reckless decision. Instead, I updated my resume, tracked my contributions, and applied for the open manager position that matched the level of work I was already doing. That taught me a powerful lesson. Many people stay stuck because they are too busy defending themselves to notice the doors opening nearby. Sometimes the smartest response to disrespect is not a speech. It is a strategic move that changes your position completely. The biggest lesson I learned is that better opportunities often sit in plain sight, but you only notice them when you stop obsessing over unfair people. I handled the situation well because I focused on what I could control: my performance, my records, my professionalism, and my next step. I understood that arguing with a toxic coworker would not increase my pay, improve my title, or strengthen my future. Applying for the higher role did all three. I turned a humiliating moment into a career breakthrough by staying sharp, paying attention, and letting results speak louder than resentment.